Good morning and welcome. Welcome to my live stream. Here we are this morning to fight CPS with your host, Bob Pace. And hang on to your children. I know this is a very uncomfortable feeling, or you may have a really bad case where CPS has marched in and taken your children. Now, it seems like there are many kinds of cases. And for whatever reason, they have taken your child, and you're now faced with how to get your child back. A lot of you have different degrees of a CPS case. Many of you are frequent to this room, and I appreciate you coming back. My morning show, my evening show. Now I'm broadcasting around the world. This is the international live stream, and it's about the Child Protection System. That's what I call CPS, the Child Protection System. It's a government entity that was mandated by Congress, directed to social services in 1962 to protect our children from neglect and abuse. Further, they're supposed to do reunification if they need to break the family up because the child is in danger. Those three things social services is supposed to do. And they've set up a government entity in every county and every state. And I know in the world, it's in every country. The child welfare system is very, very unsettling when you start to look at the many cases of abuse and neglect. It is terrible, not only in the United States, but in around the countries. I've had now a total of 23 countries that have texted in or called in, including the United States, from around the world. I've also spoken to somebody from every state that has CPS case, including the District of Columbia. These people have something in common that I had. We ran into what's called a rogue CPS agency. That means a CPS agency that's strictly about money and not caring about family reunification or about children, seniors, elders. Very abusive organization. They're not transparent, they retaliate, and they're just no good. Unfortunately, most of us don't have money for an attorney. We're always so careful about having house insurance if the house burns down, car insurance if your car gets damaged, medical insurance for your health and so forth, even animal insurance, pet insurance. But we don't seem to have insurance for legal matters, and that's where it gets really pricey. Because in order to fight CPS, you need a professional attorney that's trained and educated in the areas of juvenile law, family law, and dependency law. Dependency law is what they do in dependency court. And they're very powerful and very wealthy. It's $1 trillion business, not billions, not millions, but trillions of dollars. And they very freely send money to the state, who then passes it down to the counties. All the county has to do, if they got a case, is ask for a number, and they'll start sending money to them. They'll start sending money. There's no board of supervisors or directors that supervises either at the federal level, at the state level, or the county level. That's 3 levels of the child protection system that goes unmonitored and no check and balance. Fighting CPS is like you're going to be doing open heart surgery. It's that difficult, that tricky enough. You have to know how to navigate. And they got attorneys, powerful attorneys, that will railroad you and take your children and try to have them traffic into foster care. They do alienation, which is wrong. It's illegal. There's so many bad things. I say it's sometimes like Alice in Wonderland. You fall in the rabbit hole. And you go meet the Chester cat and you go from one place to the next, and it's terrible. Now we have an individual, new person this morning I don't think I've heard from before, from Phoenix, called Out of the Blue. And wait a minute, I think I know Out of the Blue. I think you're from Kansas City, Missouri, if I'm not mistaken. That's who you are. That's right. Now I remember you. And you're going to go live on TikTok. Well, great. I hope that that will work for you. The trafficking is really bad in CPS. They take children that are not in danger. My children were not, and they were stolen. They were taken and put into danger. My children saw danger. My children were abused and hurt in foster care. I too was a victim, and I went through it a horrible time. It all started with me back in 2010 when I lost my job through no fault of my own. Now, there's two kinds of reporters for CPS. There's your professional reporters, which are mandated by law to report suspect of neglect or abuse. Then there's the layperson. And the layperson is somebody like your neighbor, your family, your friends, your acquaintances, guy at the store. Any of those people suspect child abuse or neglect can report it in also. That's how the child protection system keeps track. And so when someone calls in, and the lay people, that was my problem in my case, they can make up stories. You see, the bad thing about calling in is that you don't have to sign a piece of paper making a statement, and you certainly don't have to give them your name. I think you should give your name, your phone number, and sign a piece of paper that states what you're talking about. Because 75% of the time, the layperson is wrong in the reporting. Only 25%. Well, I shouldn't say 75%, maybe 50-50. It's a 50-50 shot that these lay people are telling the truth. A lot of them are using the CPS, reporting them for their own gain because they may not like the dog barking in the next to you, or they don't like the way their yard is grown on your yard. So they'll call on that person and fabricate a story. Or parents are going through divorce and they want to alienate the children. So again, they fabricate a story. Or a family member wants the inheritance. There's been so many abuse of family members against the one other family member. It is wrong. It is wrong. Now, I am so glad that you found my live stream because I'm here to help you. I'm not an attorney. I'm a loving father, and I've helped raise 6 children. My oldest is in his 40s. Then I have 2 in the 30s, 2 in their 20s, and then 1 is a teen. And my 3 youngest ones were the ones that were stolen by CPS, trafficked into the child protection system, into foster care, where they were harmed. Now, it is very difficult to do this without a very key, important part of how to fight CPS. and that is you need to have an attorney, a lawyer. Now, I mentioned that it has to be trained in juvenile law, family law, and dependency law because your court-appointed attorney is not trained in those areas. They will not fight for your case because there's so much of their clients they have. CPS loaded them with excess amount of 30 or more clients. They don't have time. Now, this is a rough position to be in. It was hard for me because the layperson that was reporting on me was actually my in laws, my wife's mother and father, three sisters, and a brother who would call in every week and state something that wasn't true about our child, that we weren't feeding our children, we weren't taking care of our children. With this being said, it was a very awful, awful, awful time. And every week I would meet with them and show them the house and let them in and try to see what was wrong. And they could not find anything wrong. And this went on for 5 years until they hired a detective that forced me to come home and open up the house. Now, he didn't have a warrant. I did not know about my civil rights or constitutional rights, and I allowed him to force me to come home. And when I was coming home, I had recently picked up my young son who was with me from school. I was supposed to get my wife who was downtown, and she I couldn't even call her or tell her what was going on. This is how bad the detective is. The police department is very abusive and very authoritative. You know, they're supposed to protect and serve the people in this city, but they don't. And, there are bad police as well as bad CPS. I just happen to run into them. So it is a hard thing to go through because CPS had also called the fire department and it had 5 firemen there. They also called code enforcement. They had 2 code enforcement. Then they had 3 social workers and 2 uniformed policemen, along with the detective that had ordered me to my home. If I knew what I knew now, I would never have opened up my home. I would never come to my home. I would tell the officer, either you arrest me or write a citation, but I'm going to go pick up my wife after you give me the citation. I can sign it for promise to appear. I knew I had not violated any traffic violation, but they were determined to try I did. But they, opened my gate to my home. I lived in a private neighborhood with CC&Rs, and I had a big home. This is my forever home, my dream home. High vaulted ceiling, brand new, not that old, and central vacuum in the walls and toggle switches for electrical lights. And I mean, the big flat toggle switches, it's nice full kitchen and stuff. Anyway, they went through the home trying to find something. And they've been out before. They could never find anything. And they thought maybe the firemen could find a fire code violation or the code enforcement could find something. They made sure that the door to the swimming pool was locked and secured from my children, who were at that time 9 and 12 and 15. So they weren't too young and little. There was a surrounding fence around the swimming pool, so you couldn't get in. So a young child couldn't get in. Each room was well kept. They had their own bathroom, and it was nice. So they couldn't find anything, but they did find one thing that they wrote us up with, and it was 3 counts, since I had 3 children living at home, of neglect. And the neglect, they stated, was that I had taken my parents' belongings. My dad had recently died. My mom was slowly dying. And they had asked me if I could take their belongings and give it to their friends and relatives. They've been married for 55 years, so they have a lot of belongings. They had a lot of belongings. And I had put them in the living room, stacked up and organized neatly, and I was taking one box at a time, going through it and the furniture and so forth. But they said that would cause a hazard. They could possibly harm the children. And I sat there scratching my head that I know that furniture doesn't walk, so it couldn't walk up the stairs to attack my children. And the boxes certainly can't fly upstairs. But because they're in the living room and the children, they had access to the house, they're afraid that they could top on them. But the children were not in the living room. They have their own play area. They have a study where they can work on their homework. It's a library in an extra bedroom downstairs. So they had plenty of area. They did not have to hang out. So this neglect was a bogus thing, and I should have known that. I was just so stupid opening myself up and talking to them. That was another mistake I made. Do not talk to social workers. Do not talk to the police. Do not let them in your home. They have to have a warrant. Your home is your castle. When your door is closed, the drawbridge is up. There's nothing against the law about saying you can't open the door. Now, if there's violence going on or the children in danger, they will break in. But they need a warrant to come in there. That they say the children are in danger. And that's the thing, is they fabricate the endangerment. They fabricate, they lie. There's no accountability. The child protection system, in my case, was corrupt. And probably in the case of over 1,500 of you all that have talked to me since October of 2023. That's 19 months I've been doing this live stream, and over 1,500 some people. So I know that there is corruptness that does take place. It's the horrible, horrible thing to have your children taken from you. I mean, I can still remember the terrified look in my son's eyes, my 9-year-old son's clinging to me, wondering, what about all these people, all these doing these bad things? They upset your life. You know, they say that we'll do family reunification, but do they really mean it? Now, if I knew what I knew now, I would have told them, you're not coming in my home. I'm no longer talking to you until I get my attorney present. I want to have my attorney present because this is a legal matter. And all the detective did is write a report, send it off to the district attorney, who then charged me with the same charges that CPS was doing. But they thought they'd be smart, so they added 3 other charges, one for each child. They charged sexual charges. They did not say what kind of sex it was. They just said sexual charges. Now, my computer was never looked at. You know, the children never say anything negative about their parents. So I don't know what kind of decharges. Later, I found out it's a ploy for them to use the bargaining chip. They want you to settle for something. They're very vindictive people. And they cannot stand if someone, I don't know, is doing well in life. I don't know what the reason is, why the police did what they did or the social workers do. The Orange County Child Protection Services is corrupt. I met with the director, and I met with a lot of the supervisors. I wrote them lots of emails, but it didn't work out. It went in one ear, went out the other ear. The director works in a Taj Mahal of a building. None of the staff does. It's like the Emerald City of Oz. Why does he need so much wealth? But I found out it's all about wealth. It's all about money. You're dealing with money. And very vindictive people. Very vindictive people. Now, I'm here to help with a lot of things. I am going to tell you that if you want to text me a message, I'd be more than happy to have you text a message where I could help you. Either make it a comment or a question that should pertain to CPS. State your first name. I know a lot of you have names attached to your YouTube or Facebook, but sometimes they're hard to pronounce and sometimes they're a little silly to call someone by that name. You know, like Quiet Squirrel. I'm not putting against squirrels, but Quiet Squirrel. So do you call them Quiet or you call them Squirrel? Anyway, a name like Karen or Betsy or, you know, a simple name is all you have to put. Then also show me your city or your county and state where you're from, your city, state, or county. Now, if you have to live out of the United States, you're more than welcome. You can put your country. You can put your city and country. And I will try to help you. I'll try to help you. Also, please tell me about your CPS case from the beginning to where you're at so I can help you and understand the case. That's really good if you do that. Another way to interact with this live stream is to be a guest. And all you have to do to be a guest is send to my show producer, Grace, at vincentwdavis.com. That's Grace at vincentwdavis.com. You just tell them that you want to be Bob's Sunday morning show or Bob's Wednesday night show or Bob Tuesday morning show. You just tell her the day and the time, morning, evening, Monday through Sunday. And she will send you a link to get onto a software application I use is called SteamYard. Follow the link, and if you get knocked off, you can relink it again. So I'd love to have you be a guest, and you send your email with those 14 show times that you want, live stream, and she'll send you that link, and you put that link onto SteamYard.com. And the link will take you there. You don't have to do SteamYard.com. The link will all inclusive, and you'll be on my as a guest on my live stream. And there you can talk about your case or help others. You'll see the comments in the room and so forth. But I'd love you to be on her show. She will tell you what to say and not to say, such as we do not eat or smoke on the show. We do not use bad language. This is a family show. It is an awful thing to talk about CPS. I know that. I know it is. Now, I have a number on the screen called 888-888-6582. That's the law offices of Vincent W. Davis. And you can certainly call into that. And if you want to speak to Mr. Davis, I hope you do. You can retain Mr. Davis. He has been doing this law. I mean, he's been fighting CPS for 39 years. And he is a trial attorney. He also does civil lawsuits, both in state court and federal court, and won millions of dollars. So he's the real deal. Now in LA County, which is where he works out of, his retainer is $5,000 to start off with. He's a $500 an hour attorney. Now I am trying to text right now Vincent Davis here to find out something. So
high school.
okay. Excuse me, I'm live. Now, a lot of you at time to time will see my recorded video. I'm glad you do, because people come and go in this room. It's like a merry-go-round. 1 minute they're on their horse asking questions or trying to see how it is. The next minute they're no longer around. So my room goes up and down with people all the time. Now, I do have a phone number that you can call in. That's another way you can interact with this live stream. My number is 626 698 0990. I'd love to take your call. And I can help you by talking to you. One thing's nice, by calling in or being a guest on my live stream, you're eligible for a free 15-minute consultation with my attorney, Vincent W. Davis. Now, he's been fighting CPS for 39 years. He's a trial attorney. As I told you before, he's schooled in the areas of dependency law, juvenile law, and family law, all three areas. He is also a trial attorney, and he has also done lawsuits against CPS, both federal and state court, and won millions of dollars. Okay. Um, I'm multitasking right now. I had a text message from my attorney. I was trying to get a fee for a lady who has a case in Sacramento. It's a hard case for her because her child happens to be a transgender. It's a special needs, and they're taking advantage of that special needs because they get money. You have to understand, this is all about money. My children were taken in, the state was paying the county over $20,000 per child per month. That's $60,000. And if there's special needs, they get another $15,000. And on top of that, President Clinton in 1994 signed into law the Incentive Act, where the government will pay $35,000 if you to the CPS organization in that county if they get the child adopted into foster care. Now, this was 94, and they're trying to ruin reunification because reunification takes too long. And so it's all about money. It's a money hungry system. And you can be innocent and they'll still take advantage of you. They don't care what's right or wrong if it's a bad CPS entity. And mine in Orange County was very, very bad, very corrupt. It's all about money. You can see it in the office that the director of CPS in Orange County was working out of. His staff wasn't there, only he was. I think it was like a 10-story office building, but it was futuristic. It looked like the Taj Mahal of India or the Emerald City of the Wizard of Oz. It was green. And so you walked in the doorway and it was so very rich. And, it's like a company business. You're walking into maybe the office of Microsoft or, wow. You're walking into that office was so rich, the carpet was soft. They had a lot of reception there. And this is just for the director, because where we met with the social workers, a drab kind of 2-story office building. And it seems like, the social workers were the grunts and they did get rewarded. They got incentives because our social worker was in her 20s. She had not even finished a high school education. I think all CPS social workers should be schooled and get a college degree in social work and get a secondary degree, a minor, as a clinical psychiatrist. Because psychiatry has a lot to do with social behaviors. And that should be, and then on top of that, they should get a license that's renewable every 5 years, just like a driver's license or any other kind of license. We as drivers are required to renew our driver's license. It isn't forever and ever. Even a doctor has to keep his doctor license up. There's changes that take place, and that's what the license is all about, to make sure you keep abreast with the changes. So that's another change in there, because our social worker didn't have any of that. And then there should be a minimum 5-year mentoring a social worker, meaning you got to learn, especially if you're single social worker trying to work with a family. How do you know about family? I don't care how many classes you take or anything else. You have to learn about family firsthand. All the books you can read. There was a guy named Dr. Spock who in the 50s wrote a book about how to raise children. I know my parents would try to read the book. And there's lots of books too. But actually raising the children, actually going through family crisis is a much more better person to evaluate a family. There's no respect for a 22-year-old girl. Not only did that, she did retaliation against us parents. She was caught committing perjury in court. We had hired Mr. Davis after a year going nowhere with our court-appointed attorneys. And one of the things that was coming up was that my wife's sister was and her husband were trying to adopt our daughter, our young daughter, who was very naive. She was only 12 at the time. Well, we caught the social worker in a lie because Vincent Davis is very good at what he does, and he'd done some research on this particular couple. So he was leading the social worker into a trap. He knew what he was doing. So he asked the social worker, "Are these great parents?" And she said, "Yes, they're great parents." "Has there ever been any domestic violence?" "Oh, no domestic violence." Well, Vincent Davis knew that was a lie because he had 30 police reports in a folder he pulled out and started reading them. The date and the time when the police arrived. When my wife's husband and sister were arguing, but not only arguing, they were hitting each other. They're hurting each other. That's not the environment you want to raise kids in, of parents hitting each other, hurting each other. In fact, when there's an argument or domestic violence taken out, that's when you have to do a timeout. You need to walk away, just like you give your kids a timeout. But the important thing is when you do a timeout, you come back and regroup. Too many times children are given timeout. Then after 15 minutes, they say, "Okay, your timeout's, I'll go ahead and play." You need to address what the problem was, why your time was out. You as parents have got to be civil and work out the differences. And you should not do it in front of the children. Children love their mom and dad. You should never try to drive children between the parents. They should not be able to have to pick and choose. They're brought into this world by two parents that loved each other enough to create a child. And the mother who sacrifices her life for 9 months, nurturing the baby in her womb, then having the baby. And the father who works really hard, bringing home the income to pay the bills. So when you have these children, you have a tight bond, and the best bond for raising children are the biological parents, not social workers, not foster care moms or dads. Biological parents are the best parents to raise the kids. It's been proven time and time again. Time and time again. So I'm telling you, my wife's in our case was bad. It's upsetting your life. You don't have a regular routine. And we were going through hard enough it is without me working at a job. In 2010, at the age of 60, I lost my job through no fault of my own. And I was finding it very difficult to get a job because I think you're too old as a dinosaur. And living in a Spartan lifestyle where you have to worry about eating Coke or chips or cookies, things that you just didn't have money for, that was hard. We were a caring family. We did things together all the time, whether it's AYSO soccer. Both my wife and I were referees. We were involved with the AYSO soccer. There was Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, and we were involved there too. And the kids went to school and were involved with their schooling. One was at a private school, one was at a middle school that was public, and another one was elementary school was public. And these were very nice schools, very modern, and they had a lot of money. But it does upset your life. I had to sell my house to a quick sale to pay Mr. Davis. To live off because I had saved money for a couple of years. I was lucky to save it for about 7 years, but then after that, it was over. You can't save enough money to take care of. You need money, and that's one thing today you all are faced with: how to survive when you retire from a job. Most people can't do it, and they find themselves working to their 70, 80, and 90 years old. Because right now, expenses are tough out there. I know from experience. Bananas just went up. They're 75 cents a pound. Milk is at $7 a gallon. Gasoline even went up the other day, went down and up and down. Now it's back up to $4.25 a gallon. And I have no idea where this cheap gas is or anything in there. Everything is expensive. Computers are going up. I have a broken computer. I'm using my son's computer. But now they're going up. Now I cannot afford a $5,000 computer. That used to be a $1,200 computer. I'm trying to look at the price range at $1,600, but I don't know if I can find one because they keep raising. There's things called the tariffs, which are going to make things be double expecting. A car that I've been wanting for about 6 years called the Yukon, the GMC Yukon, not the Denali, but the Yukon. I was at the gas station. The guy had a brand new Yukon. He paid $110,000 for it. $110,000. That could buy you a small home someplace in the Midwest. And after 14,000 miles, the engine ran out. It broke down. They don't make cars like they used to. They're made out of cheap plastic and they fall apart. They don't last forever. We have a car that's 25 years old and keeps falling apart. I'd love to get a new one. I'd love to get a second car, a third car like I used to have. But right now, cars are out of the question. I need to get a job, a real job. A job that pays you when you work for a full week. I have a job right now that I'm paid maybe once a month if I'm lucky. And I'm so far behind in my bills that I have to pay all these back bills, all these charges. It's so bad that I can't get things I want to get. Medicine. A simple thing of medicine, a $40 subscription, not a subscription, of a $40 medicine over the counter that I know that my wife needs. And $40 is a lot of money to me right now. It was sad on Mother's Day. It was really sad on Mother's Day. I hope you all had a good one because it was a special day. And we as a family tried to have a good Mother's Day. We tried to. But some of us, my mother's gone, and my wife's mother doesn't want anything to do with her, which is terrible. That's all support. You see, that was a bad thing in CPS. When you have families turn against one each other, it's bad. Her firstborn child doesn't even talk to her. Her secondborn child doesn't talk to her. Her thirdborn child doesn't talk to her. It is sad. It is sad. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, the thirdborn does talk to her. It's the fourthborn. Anyway, her 3 girls want nothing to do with her. Well, her 1 older son and 2 girls want nothing to do with her. Anyway, we're lucky to have her 2 boys. That's what we had hired Vincent Davis for. And paid all of my home, my forever home, the home that we loved, the home that I worked 45 years to save up and buy from one home to the next home. I don't know. It's just, life is tough out there. And I want to talk about something that would help you all. But it's hard when you guys don't ask me any questions. I could talk about the Indian Child Welfare Act of 1978. I can talk about a 180 hearing, a 160 hearing. how to file a 388 motion, how to subpoena somebody, how to get your court records. I just need something to talk about. Now, the other day I was trying news, latest CPS news. Well, it's horrible. I was hearing horrible stories in Australia where they were really having a really difficult time in Australia with children. Let's see what Google tells me the latest news about CPS. Okay, I got 2 alerts. Wow, that's great. All right. It says here, children do best with their families. Well, I agree. Why keep children away? Now, a newspaper called The Hill said children do best with their families. Recently, a chorus of voices in the child welfare have tried to frame the growing national effort to reduce unnecessary family separation as a threat to child safety. I agree. That's what they always do. Oh. I noticed an odor coming out of the refrigerator that's really strong. I don't know what it is. Oh boy. But what they're selling isn't the truth. It's fear, what CPS is selling. It's fear. They want you to be afraid of them. And the fear fuels a system that too often harms the very children it claims to protect. They're trying to create fear into children and to parents. The real truth is children do best with their families. The child welfare system has for too long confused poverty with neglect. Just because you're in poverty doesn't mean you're neglecting your children. Punishing families who are poor with separation rather than offering supports. Social service is supposed to offer, and that's the same way with CPS, the Child Protection System. They're supposed to offer you food, clothing, lodging, a home, shelter, education, medical. They're supposed to even get you a job. That's what they're doing. They have the food stamp program. They have the Medi-Cal program for medical. But they have it so ridiculously corrupt right now that it's hard to get even you qualify for it. You have to take them to court to fight the group up in Sacramento that come down here dressed up in their coats and ties, and we pay for the airfare. They come down here and tell the workers down here, you did this wrong to this family. I know that from firsthand experience trying to get Medi-Cal and food stamps I qualify for. I finally, after fighting them for almost 2 years, went and got a medical plan for my wife and son. It's not cheap. It's not cheap. You still have to pay a monthly premium. You still have to pay co-payments, but it's with a really good group. Okay. So punishing families who are poor with separation and then rather offering support can keep families together safely. According to the federal statistics, 75% of children maltreatment cases involve neglect. It's not abuse, only 25 are abuse, but 75 is neglect, not abuse. Mm-hmm. And what often is labeled as neglect is frequency a symptom of poverty, inadequate housing, food insecurity, lack of child care, or missing medical appointments. It's not willful failure to care for a child, but a lack of resources to do so. The resources. Still, more than 1/3 of all children in the U.S. experience a child protection service investigation by the time they're 18. 1/3. 1/3 of children will experience investigation by the time they're 18, which is a high. That number rises to more than 50% for Black children. Black children will experience CPS more than any other race out there, 50% more. Wow. These investigations are invasive, traumatic, and often lead to unnecessary separation. Look at the Native American Indians, the first immigrant to come to the United States. From 1875 to 1978, CPS, well, other organization, they would take the children who maybe had parents that did something wrong, but never give them back, never do family reunification. Instead, they adopt the Indian children. They cut their hair, they put them in private Indian schools, they torture them, they punish them, they erase their culture, their language. They were trying to wipe out the Native American traditions. That's why it's so important to go and attend powwows. It's so important to recognize your roots. I mean, even if you're from Europe, you have roots. The people that came over from the potato famine in Ireland came over to the United States for a new beginning. Right now, we have a bunch of South African farmers who are white. They're being murdered, and their farms are being confiscated by the Blacks that have taken power in South Africa. Now, you know, news is a lot to be trusted because there's a lot of fake news, a lot of news that goes unreported. In fact, a very important thing was passed in January of this year by President Biden. He signed into law something that Congress passed on a Saturday. Not one major news reporter ever reported about it. And what it was changes to the welfare system, the health and welfare system. More additional money, more kinship, meaning that grandparents have a very important thing about their children. They're just as important. In fact, we have a guide, a grandparents guide that Vincent Davis wrote. That's $9.99, and you can get it by calling that number 888-888-6582. And if you use my name and the number 50, you get 50% off. It's PACE, PACE, all capital letters, 50%, and it's less than $5. And you get this step-by-step guide of how to get guardianship of your grandchildren. So, and there's more in there for the Indian movement there. There's more supplement, more easy access, and so forth. So I'm telling you, this little article I found is really great because I've been looking for something that. Yet there's little evidence that these disruptions lead to better outcome. Where is the support that once you're in foster care, it's a better outcome? In fact, research shows just the opposite. A study published in JAMA Pediatricians. JAMA is a journal of a medical association. It's a good documentation. I've known it for probably, 65 years, because when you learn CPR and you teach it, and you learn first aid and you teach it, and then you get training as an EMT, as an ocean lifeguard, you see JAMA all the time. It found that children placed in foster care are more likely to experience mental health issues. Mental health issues. Our two boys, I have one son who's now 25. He has mental health issues. Where did he get? He got it from being in the Boys Town group home. It was terrible. They struggle in school and encounter a criminal legal system that their peers who remain at home, even where their peers live in similar challenging conditions. The authors concluded that foster care placement can compound the harm children have already experienced rather than alleviate it. Well, those are big statements. Critics often invoke child fatalities to justify the current system is a punitive approach. Yes, there are children that are killed in the care of others. All you have to do is look at that new case about the 10-year-old boy that was starved by its parents, who are both 48 years old. And they had other children. and he was running around the neighborhood down to 36 pounds, starving to death. And then their stepson decided to strangle him. I'm telling you, there are horror stories out there. I know that. I know there are horror stories out there. I'm getting close to my end here, so let's see where I can close this story down. Child fatalities from maltreatment have actually declined over the past year, or remaining fairly stable over the past 5 years. Experts point to key preventive factors behind this trend: expanded use of early intervention programs, better risk assessment tools, and increased access to basic support like housing, food, and childcare. A study oh dear.
It's not even plugged in.
My power, just when I get the show off here.
Where's my drinks? My drinks.
There we go. Push that in. Okay, we'll see. I don't want to lose my power here. I'm getting ready to finish this up there. A study on state spending on public benefit programs found that for every additional $1,000 per person living in poverty spent on public benefits, children maltreatment facility dropped by nearly 8%. So instead of, if we go and help people and spend $1,000, it drops by 8%, rather than evidence for more surveillance. These numbers show that when we invest in support, we save lives. I'm going to stop there because my time is up, and I think my computer is dying. And I think I've fallen the problem. It's not plugged in. Anyway, I really hope that when you watch this, that you get something out of this, and that you come back later and see me. And I'll be on again tonight at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. This is hard to do when you do this twice a day, every day of the week, every week of the month, every month of the year. I'm 19 months doing this twice a day. I don't know if anybody else does this on YouTube. I like to challenge you guys can find someone who does a YouTube video twice a day for 1 hour. That's 2 hours a day, 14 hours a week. Anyway, I'm going to sign off. God bless you all. And remember, keep fighting for your children. They're the most precious things in the world. God bless you and have a great day.